Hi, so welcome to week one of the Two to Tarot course. I'm so excited to be guiding you through this journey, and I'm hoping that for my audio and my visual learners that these videos will help you. Although I won't read this word for word because nothing is more boring than taking a course and somebody's reading for you every single line of the text. I will hit on a lot of the highlights. And so what I'm going to do in this video is we'll look at week one cheat sheet. There's actually two parts of that. A lot of it was covered in the true false. So if you watch that video, then you already know a lot of this information. And then I'll also dive into the actual weekly lesson and some of the things that were not covered in the cheat sheet, just to give you a little bit more of an in-depth look at the history of tarot. And so that's what we will start with. So, when we're talking about the history of tarot, we start with the fact that it was not always a form of divination. It was actually a card game in the beginning. And so, wealthy families would hire artists and they would commission special decks for their particular family. And so, that's what tarot started out as, a parlor game. And because they were hand painted, they weren't affordable except to the wealthy. Over time, certain images and symbols began to take on spiritual meanings. And then in 1909, the Rider Waite Smith deck was created and it became the most popular deck. So from the 13th century to the 1900s, there was this gradual shift in tarot becoming a spiritual form of divination. And so that comes to like, what is tarot? And it is a form of divination, looking at a way to predict the future using these cards. But what I found is that it's really a form of self discovery. And so, can I use a card to tell a client or myself what is coming? Absolutely, it happens. And I wouldn't be a great psychic or tarot reader if I couldn't. But as much as it is used to predict future events, more often it's used to show opportunities and to help us connect with our own inner wisdom, that important soul connection with our higher self, and that of our spirit guides and our angels. A lot of times, readers will do this through a spread, and a spread is a pattern or an arrangement of tarot cards. You have probably seen the cross, which is one of the most popular spreads, and there are a lot of other kinds. For this particular course, we're going to focus on the one card, the two card, the three, and the five in the beginning. But personally, I don't really read with specific spreads. Over the years as a reader, I've learned to create the ones that work for me. And as we do our practice sessions, you'll see some of that. I love a good 10 card spread. I don't know if it's in a book somewhere, but it's one that I've just created on my own, where I do 3 lines. So you have 9 cards, and then I'll pull one card to rule the reading. Sometimes I'll add in 3 more for 3 things that Spirit wants the person to know or wants you to know. But I've learned to read tarot as a story, and each card and each line tells a part of that story. But there are spreads, and we'll talk about those in this week's curriculum. So, card types. Now, there are technically 2 types of cards, the major and the minor, but I really feel 4 different types of energies, and I'll explain that to you. So, the 2 basic types are the major and the minor, and there are 78 cards in total, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into the card type materials. Just know that for the major cards, they fall into 5 major groups. You have people like the high priestess, you have concepts, you have qualities, you have cycles, and then you have change. The minor cards, there are 56 minor cards, and each one falls into a suit. You have wands, cups, swords, and pentacles. Within that, you also have your court cards, so your kings, your queens, your knights, your pages, and your aces. And to me, aces just have a totally different energy than anything else in the deck. But we'll cover that more. Numerology is an integral part of this. It's much, much easier to learn to read tarot if you understand numerology. And so that's why this week is very numerology heavy. It's really heavy in the numerology. And so if you're studying anything this week, you need to be studying the numbers. That's most important. So for example, if you pulled a two, any two, twos are about duality. They are about decisions. And so whether you pull the two of pentacles or you pull the two of wands or the two of swords, you know that there's a decision to be made within that. And so you can learn like 5 cards if you just learn one number. So numerology is so important. And reading do's and don'ts. So, as a reader, you're going to bring together tarot study and the understanding of numerology and your intuition. Just having one part doesn't really do it. I've met readers that are psychic and they don't need a card. They don't use a card and they go truly off of intuition, and they're really great readers. And you have somebody who knows numerology and can give you a great reading about where you're at in your cycle, but maybe they don't have as much intuition or as much tarot understanding. And then you have tarot readers who strictly read by the book. They know the cards, but they don't bring in the intuition. They don't bring in the numerology. And I find that there are weaknesses in all three of those types of readers. To be a really great reader, you need to combine the three. And so that's what my course is about. And I think that's what separates this course from others. You're going to need to familiarize yourself with the cards, but you've also got to trust your gut. Also, keep in mind there are no good or bad cards. Although I hate to see the Tower coming, and I don't like the Seven of Swords, those aren't bad cards. There is a high and a low vibration to a card, and some are just inherently low vibe. Like most of the fives are really difficult, and they represent that change and that conflict that happens within us a lot of times when change is rearing its head and we're not ready. But they're not bad cards, and so you should keep that in mind as you read. All right, let's see. Next part. Okay, tarot as a toy. And I won't read every part of this to you, but it's kind of like what I just focused on. So we did the cheat sheet, and now we're getting into the info that I gave you that was based on this. Tarot has been around for over 700 years. And over time, it has transformed into what it is today. The oldest surviving deck is from about the 15th century, and it was hand painted. And now there are tons of different types of decks, with the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck being the most popular and the one that we will use in this course. I have found that if you use that deck to learn tarot, then you can pretty much read any deck that there is. Many of the designs are said to be from ancient decks that aren't even around anymore, and then some from social settings. And over 100 years later, this is the deck that most readers use. And this is a part of divination, and it's a form of cartomancy, which is using playing cards to tell the future, to answer questions about the past, the present, and the future. One thing that I think is interesting is that if you learn one form of divination and trust your intuition, it's usually pretty easy for you to learn any other form, whether that be runes or tea leaves, whatever it is. All of these forms are going to reveal patterns and cycles of our lives, and they can be used to help us connect with our own wisdom and that of spirit, our creator. It will bring things to the surface that we need to be aware of and show us, opportunities, outcomes, as well as challenges. So we talked a little bit about tarot spreads and that being a layout. And so for this week, I want to cover the 1 card, the 2 card, the 3, and the 5. So the simplest of all spreads is just a 1 card. Let's see. Okay, here we are. A 1 card pull. And so a 1 card pull is really good for should I do this? Should I not? Yes or no? Should I leave my job? Should I go to Ireland? Yes or no? So that's a really good way to answer those questions. And a 2 card spread. Oh, wait, one more thing with the 1 card spread. I use that for study. Okay. I use a 1 card spread for study. And so every day I'll pull a card and say, let's say today was the 4 of Wands. Okay, well, let's dig into this. And then I look online and I look in my tarot books and I watch a video on it. And so I will use a 1 card for my actual practice, right? So that's really what a 1 card spread can be for. A 2 card spread, you can also do a yes and a no with the 2 card spread, but I really like it for stay or go. If I stay, this happens. If I go, this happens. If I do it, this happens. If I don't, this happens. If I say yes, this happens. If I say no, here's the outcome. What is the strength of this choice? What is the flaw of this choice? What is the strength of my relationship? What is the flaw? This decision I'm making, what is the problem? What is the solution? And I also like to use a 2 card spread for 2 paths. So if I leave my cheating boyfriend, this is what's going to happen. If I stay with him a little bit longer, this is what will happen. That's a 2 card spread. A 3 card is what I use most often for simple readings. And so I will often do 3 things I need to know. I will say to Spirit, give me 3 things I need to know. And then Spirit will reveal that. But you can also do past, present, future. You can do tomorrow, next week, next month. It really doesn't matter what they represent. You get to choose, but you just need to tell Spirit ahead of time, this is what these are representing for me. Again, there's no wrong or right way. You just have to be clear about what you are expecting the cards to represent. So for a 5 card spread, this is a much easier to digest cross. This is a mini cross. And number 1 can be the past. And then number 2, that middle card, the present. 3, the future. And then what is my obstacle? What is my opportunity with number 4 and with number 5? And this is, if you want to just do a general reading about where you are right now or where your client is, if you are wanting to read professionally or for others, then that is a really good 5 card is a good one to use. All right, so the 78 cards explained. Here we are. This is what you've been wanting to know. What do the cards mean? So, and the first part, I said there are how many cards? You know, one of the most overwhelming parts of being a new reader is realizing that there are a lot of cards. And when you learn that they all have a different meaning in reverse, it can be even more overwhelming. It can be really stressful to know, wait, I have 78 cards and wait, but there are 78 and then I have to learn the reversals as well? And this is where numerology really comes in handy. So don't get overwhelmed about how many cards there are, because the great thing about this course is that I will break this down for you week by week, by section, and I also have a story to help you. And so I've thought of a lot of really unique ways to do this. And just knowing the different types of card is a really good place to start. So I told you earlier, we have the 2 basic types, the major and the minor arcana. And I also talked about how there are 22 major cards. Now, there are only 21. It only goes up to number 21. Number 21 is the world. But don't forget about the Fool. He is the 0 card. He actually starts it, and tarot is his journey. These cards, the major cards, they explain our big issues, the overall themes in our life. And the minor cards come in to kind of back it up with some things that might be going on a temporary basis. So with the 56 minor cards, you have your wand, your cups, your pentacles, and your swords, and these represent a different element. So wands are fire. Water is cups, air, swords, and then pentacles, earth. And one thing I didn't include in this that you might want to study, though, because it can be helpful, is the connections between the wands and the fact that it's connected to the fire elements. And so those are going to be Aries, They're going to be Leo, and then like with the air, you have and Sagittarius also with that. You have Gemini, and you have Aquarius, and you have, let's see, Gemini, Libra. So knowing the different elements that are connected, that can be important as well. And I may add that into the course now that I'm thinking out loud. So maybe at some point you'll get to the end of the course and it'll be there. There are court cards included as well. And these are the royal figures. You have your page, your knights, your queens, your kings, and they usually represent the person seeking a reading or somebody they know, or it could just be a personality. For example, the King of Swords, he's honest, but he has some really strong beliefs. And when you flip him in reverse, though, he can be rather controlling and can sometimes hurt with his words. So just like we all have light and dark parts to our personality, there are no bad or no good. It's the same thing for our tarot people, our royal court. Now, the aces are the ones in tarot. There are technically no ones. They don't say one on them. They'll just say ace. But every first card in a tarot deck, what word am I looking for here? Suit, a tarot suit. It represents a new beginning. Okay, so that's important. That's important to know as well. So your ones are all going to be about new beginnings. That's really kind of important to grasp. Okay, so now we're going to look at card types. I want to make sure. Yeah, we're going to look at card types. So I've kind of covered this a little bit, but I did separate them out here for you, and you can read this. These are all of the foundational cards, full through the world. And then it talks about the minor cards, and then it talks about the court cards, because again, I see those as different, and they're the most difficult to read for me. For me as a reader, court cards are the most difficult, especially if you get tons of them in a reading. I think I was doing a reading for a client a couple weeks ago, and she had like 6 court cards out of maybe 9 cards that I pulled. But here's a hint for how you can remember it. If a card has a name and a number, it's a major card. If a card only has a number, it's a minor card. And if it has a name only, it's a royal person, and it's inside of a suit, that is a court card. That's just like a little hint for you. And you can see here, like the major card, this is the strength card, and it has the number on top, and it also has a name on bottom, so you know it's a major card. And then like the one for the minor, this is 2 of cups. Well, how do you know it's 2 of cups? Because there's 2 on top, and you see the suit is cups, but there's no name. Okay. And then down here, we have no number for the court card, but we have a knight, and he is the knight of who? Knight of Wands. So that's that. All right. So now we're into numerology, one of my favorites. Okay. And I talked here about intuition and ways that you can learn the card. And I would really resist the urge to grab a cheat sheet or use Google or use the cards that everybody's using, which are, they have the meanings on the card. If you bought that deck, you're not bad. It's not bad. But I would urge you to put it away. It will be more difficult for you to learn the cards because you're not going to have to think. Okay. And you won't really know if you know it or not because the answer is there for you. And so I would urge you to put that away, get a traditional deck, and learn it the old-fashioned way. And so when you pull a card, instead use this intuitive approach. Okay. You want to look at the card name. You know, what does this word, number, or suit represent to you? Look at the image. Look at the symbols. And then consider the card combinations. For example, if you have 2 cards beside each other, is there a connection between these 2? Is there something that we can connect with this? So for example, I'll pull a card here. I pull the Fool, and then we have the 6 of Wands, and maybe I'll pull one more. The Hermit. Okay, well, how can I connect these? Well, I know the Fool, he's the 0 and he's the start, and you'll learn that he's the beginning of a journey, right? Well, when I pull him beside the Six of Wands, well, this looks like somebody who's super successful, who has won something, or they're being celebrated. And so that would tell me, okay, well, maybe there is, the Fool. I'm going to start a journey where I'm going to be celebrated. And then the Hermit. Well, this is a guy, he looks totally alone. He's got a lantern that's guiding him. So I'll probably do this alone. This is not with other people. So you have to trust your gut, and you kind of have to dig in and practice, because even if you know the meaning, every card that you combine will change things just a bit. Okay. And that's important, really important to note. And as far as numerology, it is the ancient study of drawing meaning from numbers. This is woven into the fabric of tarot, and so again, knowing it will help you become a stronger reader. If I, for example, have pulled a 5 a lot of times in a reading for somebody, and it's come out upright, I know that they're dealing with a lot. They may be dealing with a lot of change, or unwelcome, or looking for stability, or trying to overcome something that they're grieving. And I know that not by just knowing the cards, but because of numerology. Speaking of, I'll shift and show you that. So here we go. Tarot numerology. So ones are new beginnings, they are opportunities, and they are all for taking steps. And 2 is about decisions, balance, partnership. 3, groups, growth, communication. And 4s are stability, structure, foundations, sometimes control as well. 5 is conflict, loss, forced change that comes that it can be earth shattering. Number 6, healing, harmony, success, and also connection. There's a lot with connection there as well. 3 and the 6 both kind of have connection. 7, we always say that 7 is a lucky number, right? Well, in tarot, not really. Although the 7, the Chariot, does represent victory. For most of the minor cards, it's about planning, strategy, questioning things, choices, and opportunities as well. And then your 8 is strength, control, the material world, the ego, things that you can do, the work, putting in the work, opportunities as well there. And then number 9 is about contentment, comfort, and reflection. And then 10, which is, I think, the most powerful number within tarot, because it is about ending of cycles, completion, and ending things so that you can move forward. All right, so tarot do's and don'ts. What do you not need to do when it comes to being a reader? Well, I think some of them they're pretty straightforward, and these are just my suggestions. This is everybody's different. Every reader is different, but you do want to familiarize yourself with the cards. You need to study them again. Kind of do it cold turkey without the cheat sheets in the beginning, but don't obsess over knowing every exact meaning of every single card. If you have a general idea, then once you're doing readings, you'll learn more. Don't wait until you know every single card, front and back, up and down, to jump into doing readings. It's the practice that will really help you. You do want to use your intuition, and don't assume that every card is going to mean the same thing in every reading. You're going to start out with very simple spreads like the 1 card, the 3 card, but not labeling cards as good or bad. Practice, 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 and don't give up if you don't know exactly what the cards are trying to tell you. Sometimes this happens, and it's something that you'll know later on, okay? And if you can't remember the meaning of the card, use your intuition. Look at the images. What do they represent? Are there any specific keywords or phrases that are popping into your mind? This can really help you to know that. So your week 1 homework is to conduct a reading. Okay. So at the end of each week, you will get you'll have some homework. And this activity that I created for this week is just to conduct a reading. Choose a spread. Start with a 1, a 2, or a 3. If you're more advanced and you want to jump on into a 5, that's fine. But as you shuffle your cards, you're going to focus on your energy on a question or a situation. It's totally up to you, but let's say I'll do a 1 card here as we practice. And then you're going to pull each card and lay it down to make your spread. And then you're going to look at it and read it intuitively. What do you think these cards mean? What feeling do you get? And then you're going to look up, once you decide what you think, then you'll look up the meaning for each card. So let's say I'm you and I'm going to pull a card. Okay. 6 of Swords. We'll do 3. I would lay this down, a reading space. Oh, Queen of Pentacles. And then another 6. Oh, 6 of Pentacles. Oh, did I say Pentacles for this? She's Cups, Queen of Cups. And then 6 of Pentacles. So I would look at these individually, write down what I kind of think about them, and then try to come up with something that I think makes sense for these cards. I do suggest that you read reversals. I know that some readers say they don't read reversals. Some people like to try to learn to read the upright cards first. To me personally, they have a totally different vibe and a totally different meaning from spirit. And so I think a lot of times people do that because it's easier just to learn the upright. But I find it better. You'll be a more proficient reader if you just go ahead and learn to read the reversals as you learn the upright, because there are the high and the low vibe to every card. Every card is not meant to be read upright. Sometimes it can represent the lower version. And if you know the reversal, that's Spirit's way of showing you. Thankfully, all of these were upright. And we have the 6 of Swords. And what is he doing? Well, it looks like he's taking somebody away. And they are leaving where they are, okay, in a boat. Next, we have the Queen, our first court card, and she is the Queen of Water. Okay. And then you have 6 of Pentacles. Well, this looks like somebody's being blessed with something. And the fact that I have 2 6s, well, that's interesting. So I would go back into my numerology. What does 6 mean in numerology? And I would look at that. And then I would write out, what kind of cards came up, what numbers appeared, and what might this mean? And what is my soul, my spirit guides trying to communicate to me based on this? And it's going to be different for every person.